Today I'm going to show you how to make a multi-strand bracelet that is through herringbone stitch. So it's really a simple bracelet. It turns out really pretty. I'll show you this on the wrist in just a minute. First, I wanted to make a small announcement. I have a brand new website. It's called GGC Treasures. It's under construction, however, because Shirley at Budget Beadbox is updating her site. She is closed for the month. So she has put some of her things that are in high demand on my website. So you can go and check it out. The cuboid crystals that were in this bracelet, the easiest tennis bracelet that I made about a month ago, they are on that site, as well as a few other things. So if you would like to go and check it out because her site is closed and you want to get some affordable beads and you are missing her store, then go ahead and check out my new website. Like I said, it's under construction. Eventually there will be a lot more on it, but there are some things there now that you can purchase if you are so inclined. Eventually there will be kits and several other things on my site once I get in the total swing of it and it's completely completed. But right now you can go and check it out if you would like. It's ggctreasures.com, and I will put that in caption so that you can check it out. I will also put a link in the comments below so that you can also just click the link. So here we go. This is the bracelet I make on a camera today. I'll put it on in a minute. But this is done with all crystal. These are little 3 by 2.5 Rondel crystals and 6/0 seed beads. And this one, I used a bunch of different types of beads. So I used, let's get you a little closer so you can see. I used a couple of strands of 11/0s in the lavender, a couple in silver. I used some 8/0 seed beads in this strand. In this strand, it's a 3 by 4 Rondel crystal, or a 4 by 3 Rondel crystal, excuse me. And then this is a 4mm bicone. So you can see that you can do this in more than just one way. This is the one I make today. You can also wear them not twisted. I twisted these, and they twist very nicely and look really pretty on the wrist. And it takes more bulk and more length when you twist them. But you can also wear them untwisted, like this one. So you can just wear it like that too if you'd like. And I'm going to go ahead and put this one on the wrist and show you what it looks like. And I'll be right back. This is what it looks like on the wrist. Really pretty. So here's the clasping. And here is the crystal. It's really, really pretty. And you can twist it as loose or as tight as you'd like. You can wear it untwisted also, which is quite pretty too, so you can untwist it. But it makes my length a little bit longer when I untwist it, of course, because it's not twisted. So let's get this on if we can here, and I'll show you what it looks like. And then we'll just go ahead and look at, hang on there. There we go. All right. And then we'll go ahead and look at the material list. So that's what it looks like untwisted, or just slightly twisted. I think that's pretty too. And the clasping, of course. So anyway, let's go ahead and look at the material list and get started. For this project today, I will be using a 6/0 seed bead. This is a Toho. It is an opaque pearlized white with a gold lining. Then I'm going to be using some 8/0s and some 11/0s. You only need a few 8/0s. And both my 11/0 and 8/0 are Toho also, and they are the galvanized permanent finish Starlight. So they are the gold tone. Then we'll be using, in this particular bracelet, I will be using a 3 by 2.5 Rondel crystal. Now I'm using this color here. I just don't have all of them out right now, but you'll need several long strands like this, like 3 long strands. These long strands have a little bit more than 100, probably about 125 crystals or something like that on it. Otherwise, just make sure that you get enough so that you have about 300 crystals if you want to make a 5-strand like I will make. If you want to make more, get more. These strands of rondelles, these Chinese crystal, are very affordable. You can find them very reasonably priced, and you can get several strands. So get as many strands as you would like. If you want to make a really full bracelet, get more than 3-4 strands. If you want to make the bracelet I've made, get about 3 or 4 strands. And it should be plenty. And then you can also use, if you don't want to use crystal, you can also use different sizes of beads like I have here. I've done a couple strands with 11-0 seed beads. So I did 2 silver with Toho 11-0s, 2 lavender with Toho 11-0s, and 8-0 in this purple color. Then I used a 3x4 Rondel crystal, and I used a 4mm bicone crystal. So this particular strand has, or this particular bracelet has 7 different strands in it. So you can do the same type of bracelet I'm doing in whatever beads you want to do. Just keep them small, the beads under 4mm, and it should work out just fine. Mix your 4mm size with some 11-0s and you'll be able to get a lot of strands. So that is an option also. We're going to be using 10-pound Nanofil. You can also use 6 or 8-pound Fireline if you'd like. The 10-pound Nanofil is very strong and works really well, so that all I have to do is put 1 thread through each strand. So I recommend that. Otherwise, like I said, use a Fireline. I'm going to be using a size 10 English beading needle in this particular project. You can also use a size 12. You'll want to put onto your needle a full wingspan. So wingspan is when you spread your arms out to your sides like you're going to fly away. Measure from your fingertips on the first arm, your entire length of your arm, across your chest, the entire length of the next arm, to your fingertips. That is a wingspan. And then we will also use a shorter 1 arm's length. We will make 2 separate pieces, one with a long thread and one with a short thread. So let's go ahead and get started. Thread your needle with a wingspan and let's get going. Okay, to start this project, pick up 2 of your 6-0 seed beads and then just draw them down to the end of your thread. You don't have to leave a long tail, but you need enough to hold on to and tie a knot. Now we're going to go back up into the first bead that we put on the thread here. Just into that first one. Hold on to your beads, hold on to your tail, and pull your thread. As you do that, the 2 beads will roll on top of themselves like this. And then we're going to go back down into the bead next to the one we're in, or coming out of, I guess you would say, and then back up through this one. So you're just sewing around them, and we're just going to stop right there, and we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a 6-0 seed bead, and an 8-0 seed bead. And we're going to drop these down to these 2, just like that. Then pick up your round clasp side and bring it down your thread, just like this. Let me get you a little closer. Now you're going to go into the 8-0 and the 6-0, and just the 8-0 and 6-0. Hold on to them and pull your thread until your clasp comes up to your beads, just like this, and then pick up an 11-0 and go down into your beads. Now pick up 2 6-0 seed beads. You're coming out of this one, you're going to go directly over into this one and pull your thread through. Now we have started a herringbone. But as we put the beads on our little herringbone here, we're going to go up and sew through the clasp too, so that all of our units of our herringbone are nice and attached to the clasping. So I'm coming out of this bead right here. I'm going to go into the first 11-0, the 6-0, the 8-0 on top of it, and through my clasp. Everything's going to loosen up a little bit, and that's okay, because as you tug your thread, it'll tighten back up. Now I'm in my clasp, I'm going to go into the 8-0, and then I'm going to go into the 6-0 and the 11-0 on this side, and straight down both of those 6-0 seed beads right there. And now we're going to pick up 2 of our 6-0 seed beads, and we're going to go down into the bead next to the one we're coming out of, right here. And now we're going to go through our clasping one more time. So go up into the 11-0, the 6-0, the 8-0, and the clasp. Just like this. And pull your needle through. Then go around your clasping, you're in it, just go into the 8-0 on top here, the 6-0, the 11-0, and go all the way down all 3 of these beads on this side, just like this. Now we're sewing through these a lot because it's the end of the bracelet and it needs to be really strong. Now the clasping is secure, but we need to decorate this up a little bit so it's a little prettier. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut down my tail, and then I'm going to take a lighter and just kind of melt that down. Don't light it on fire, just get the heat close enough to where the Nanofil or Fireline just rolls into those beads. Now we're going to go up 2 beads. So we're coming out of this one, we're going to go up 2 beads. And we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and we're going to go down 2 beads. So we're crossing directly over into the bead right next to the one that we're coming out of, and we're going down into both the beads here. And you can do this as you're making your herringbone, but I wanted this to be more secure, so we're going to do it now. And then we're going to go up through 1 bead now. So we're coming out of this one, we're going to go up through 1. And we're just going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and go directly over into the bead next to the one we're coming out of and pull the seed bead down. Just like that. Now, just to secure this a lot more, we're going to go over and up all 3. Excuse me, geez. Go up all 3 of these 8-0 seed beads right here. And then cross over and go down all 3 of these seed beads on this side of the 6-0s. And now, this is what you should have. And we're just going to set this aside, and we're going to cut about 1 arm's length, which should be more than plenty. So just measure from your fingertips to your shoulder on 1 arm, and we're going to cut 1 more piece of thread and thread it onto our needle. This I'm going to leave the long thread on, and I'm just going to set it aside. I'm going to grab this part of my toggle, cut another piece of thread, and thread my needle, and we'll be right back. Okay, now that I have threaded my needle, I'm going to go ahead and pick up 2 of my 6-0 seed beads, just like I did last time, and bring them down to the end of my thread. I don't leave a long tail. You don't have to tie a knot, so just ignore that, but leave enough to hold on to. And then roll the beads on top of each other as you come through the first bead that you put on your thread, just like we did before. and then we're going to go back through the 2 beads. So go down into the one next to the one you were coming out of, and then back up through the previous one. Now let's do that one more time just to make sure everything doesn't slip around. It's going to get a little loose, but this will kind of ensure that it stays. So I've just sewn around them one more time. Now I'm going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead, and then I'm going to pick up a 6/0 seed bead, and then this time we're going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads to make this side of the clasping more narrow so that it passes freely through the circle side of the toggle. So I've got an 11/0, a 6/0, and 2 8/0s onto my thread. I'm just going to kind of lay this down and then go through the straight end of my clasp. And I'm just going to leave it on the bead mat and go back through the 2 8/0s and the 6/0, just like this. I'm going to hold on to them and pull my thread through. And this is what you should have. Now pick up another 11/0 and we'll go through the 6/0 on this side. I'm laying it down hoping that you can see it better, but I don't know if that's helping. Now sometimes you need to pull on your tail until we get these beads wound through here a little bit better. That it may loosen up in between the original 2. And now I'm going to sew back through all of these beads. So I'm going to pick up 2 6/0s. I'm going to go into the 6/0, the 11/0, the 6/0 here, the 2 8/0s, and through my clasp. And I'm going to pull these 2 beads down. Get my tail out of there. And that's what that should look like. Now go back down into the 2 8/0s underneath the clasp, straight down into both of them, the 6/0 and the 11/0 on the opposite side from which you started in, right here, and pull them down. Give a little tug, straighten things out a little bit. It's a herringbone, so they're not going to be really straight. They lay at angles, so don't worry about that too much. And then let's just cut this down a little bit. And we're going to pick up 2 more 6/0 seed beads right here. We're going to go up all of the beads on this side. So I'm going up the 2 6/0s, the 11/0, the 8/0, and the 2 8/0s, and I'm just going to push through. Draw these 2 beads down like this. Go into the clasp. Tighten it up by pulling on your thread. Straighten things out, and then go through the clasp and then down into the 2 8/0s, the 6/0, the 11/0, and all 3 of the 6/0s on this side. Pull the thread through, and then let's just straighten things up a little bit. And let's get rid of this little tail. So I'm just going to burn it down. Just get my heat close and let it melt down into my beads, just like that. And this is what it should look like. Now we're going to add a little embellishment of 11/0s on top. It's all secured up here, but we want to make it a little bit prettier. So we're going to go up 2 8/0 seed or 6/0 seed beads. So we're coming out of this one, we're going to go up 2 on the opposite side here and pull the thread through. Then we're going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead and we're going to go into the 2 on the opposite side. Straight down into them and pull that 11/0 into place. Then we're going to go up one bead on the opposite side. So you're coming out of this side, go up one bead. Pull your needle through, pick up an 11/0, and go down into just one on this side. And this is what you should have. Now we're going to cross over and we're going to sew up 3 6/0s, all 3 of them. Just put your finger and thumb together and pull it up, give it a little tug, cross over, go down all 3 of them on this side, and pull the thread down. Give it a little tug so that it doesn't make a big blob between your beads there. And then on this one, we're going to tie a knot. So you can see there's a little thread bridge right here between the beads. You're going to go under that thread bridge. Make a loop with your thread, go through it with your needle, and pull a knot down on that thread bridge. Now we're going to do that one more time. Sew up through all 3 beads on this side, cross over, sew down all 3 beads on the opposite side, and one more knot. So go under the thread bridge, make a loop, go through it, and pull your knot down. Now we're going to cut this piece of thread off, leaving a little bit of a tail, and very carefully just melt this down. You don't want to melt any of your other threads. Just melt that down, let it sink into the beads, and this is what you should have. Now we have 2 ends. We have one with a long thread on it, and we have one that's tied off, just like this. Now go ahead and put your needle on the longer thread again, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now I have put my needle on my long piece of thread, and I'm just going to begin making a strand of crystal. Once I have the length that I think I need, and I'll show you how to measure that, then we'll sew up through this end of the clasp that we made. And then we'll sew through it, and we'll come back down, and we'll make several strands. First, we're just going to begin by picking up however many crystals that it takes to make our length. And like I said, I'll come back and show you that. But I'm just going to begin picking up my little crystals on my needle, and I'm going to continue picking them up and dropping them down until I think I have the proper length, and then I'll show you how to measure that, and then I'll show you how to continue by sewing it through the opposite end, and then we will make another strand. So go ahead and continue picking up your crystals until you have several inches, and I'll be back and show you exactly how to measure that. Okay, so I have picked up a bunch of crystals onto my thread, and I am going to measure how many I want by putting it on my ruler. This first strand is going to be your guide, and so what you're going to do is you're going to put the toggle side halfway through the first 1 inch mark. So you want to put it right at the edge halfway through, and then you're going to lay your thread out or your beads out as straight as you can. It doesn't have to be exact. And then you're going to put this end on how long you want your bracelet to be. Now I want mine to be 7.5 inches. I can wear a 7, however, I want this to be a little bit longer because there's going to be some bulk to this bracelet. So I'm going to make it 7.5 inches. I've laid it there, and you can see that my beads should meet that just about right. I may need to add just a few more because your beads spread out a little bit. So I'll probably pick up 2 more beads, and then I know that I'm ready to sew through my clasp because I know I have the length I want. Because you can use all different beads with this, I'm not counting them and telling you exactly what to put on here, because you may decide you want to do this with seed beads or with 4mm round pearls or who knows what. So you're just going to measure your length, and then the first one will be your guide. You'll make all the rest of them the same length. So now I have my second half of my bracelet here. I'm laying it out so you can see that when I sew through this, I want to sew straight through the same side I'm coming out here. So I'm coming out of this side, I want to go into this side. So I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to go through all 3 of these beads. Well, let's just go through 2. Let's go through 2 of them on this side. Let me get you a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. Just like that. And then I'm going to pull my thread through, and then as I travel through, I can travel through this 11-0 so that there's not a bunch of bulk between my beads that you can see. I'll go through that 11-0, and then I will go down through these 2 beads here. And now I can make my next strand exactly the same length as my first one. So I'm going to make them all the same length instead of making them different lengths so that they kind of separate. I want them to be all the same. So I'm going to go ahead and start picking it up, and I'll lay next. You can count the ones on this one too if you're using all the same size bead. If you're not changing around like I did on this one. I used an 8-0 on this strand, I used 11-0s on this strand, 3x4 on this strand, so I just made them all the same length. If you're making them all the same bead like I'm doing on this one, you can count the number of beads and you can just make that many beads on each strand. So we're going to go ahead and start picking up beads again. I will count mine since I'm using all the same bead, and I will make my strand all the way until I have the same number, and we'll come back and sew through again. Okay, so I have made my second strand, and for me it's 59 of these little crystals. So now I am going to go back up into, so I'm coming out of this side, so now I have to go into this side. I'm going to go up 2, since I went up 2 last time. And I'm going to go through this 11-0 seed bead again. And then I'm going to go down through this 6-0, both of them on this side. Let me see if you can see what I'm doing. I guess I better get close here. So go up 2, go through the 11-0, and then just go into the 2 on this side. And then next time when we sew through, we'll just sew up 1. And that way we can alternate it up through 2, up through 1, so that it doesn't get too bulky inside the beads and show the thread. So now I am ready to begin another strand. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up my 59 beads, and I'll be back to show you how we'll sew up just 1 of the 6-0s and go through the 11-0 on this one. And we'll just continue making as many, you can make as many strands as you want as long as you can sew through your beads well and they're laying okay. So I'm going to probably make at least maybe 4 more strands. I hope, maybe not. We'll see what I end up with. But I'm going to go ahead and start picking up my crystals again and making another strand, and then I'll come back and show you how to sew that through. And when I get low on thread, I will show you how to add more, because you will need to add more in this project, more than likely. So we'll be back as soon as I make my next strand. So you can see I've made my next strand, and this time we are going to go ahead and sew. So I'm coming out of this side of the bracelet. I have to go into this side, and I am going to just sew up 1 of the 6-0 seed beads. So I'm just going to go up 1 right here. Then I'm going to go through the 11-0 here, pull this nice and tight so that there's no slack, and then I'm going to go down into the 6-0 on this side and pull. And you can see I'm starting to get a pretty nice looking crystally stranded bracelet here. So I'm going to continue making strands the same way. The next one I'll sew up through the first bead again and come down, and we'll put a couple of them in that way. And we'll just see if you need to, if you're going to make more strands than because I have to see how many crystals I have. I'm just going to go until my crystals run out. You can always go up 2 beads and go through the 11 up here, and then go back down, and then the next time go up through 1 bead, whatever you need to do, just to make sure that your ends stay nice and clean, so you can alternate between going up 2 and going up 1 as you come around. Because I went up 1 on this side, I'm going to do it again on this side, and then the next time I can go up 2 or whatever. So let's just go ahead and make another strand. If I run out of thread, I'll come back and show you how to make more. It looks as if actually my wingspan is going to do a little bit more than I thought. So let's go ahead and continue making strands, and I will be back to show you how to connect it or to add thread. Okay, so I have made my next one now, and I am just going to travel up. So I'm coming out of this side right here. I'm going to travel up just 1 bead because I went up 1 last time, and then through this 11-0. And then as I do this, you can see I'm kind of placing them on top of the previous strands so that they kind of lay up high. Now I'm going to go back down into this one. When I go through the other side next time, I can go up through 2 beads. It looks like I'm going to be able to get maybe 1 more strand. I don't think I'm going to get 2 out of all of my crystal. So if I can only get 1 more, then I'll just make 1 more pass on this side, since I'm coming out of this side here, and tie it off. If I can get more, then you can go ahead and make more. But so far, this is, I think, as far as I can go. And if you need to add thread, then I will show you how to extend your Fireline. But at this point, I don't think for as many strands as I'm going to make, I will need to. However, I will show you how to extend anyway. Okay, so I went ahead and cut my thread. I probably would have had enough to make my last strand and sew, tie off, sew through and tie off. But in case you're going to make more strands than I am, perhaps you're using more crystal, or you have a bunch of different beads you're using or whatever, you may need to add. Now, the best way to do it would be to add very close to your end and be able to sew through your 6 O's again to hide your knot. However, you can do it in the middle here too if you do it carefully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a square knot with my new long thread and my little short thread. So I'm going to cross the 2 threads like this. I'm going to bring my short thread under my long thread like that, and then I'm going to cross them on the top and bring one under the other. Just like that. So it's a square knot. So I've just brought one under the other like that. I'm going to pull it down, and don't pull it really tight, but enough to where it's not going to slip out. Just pull your knot down like this. And now I'm going to cut my threads short, real close to the knot. And then I'm going to take my lighter, or you can use a thread burner. Thread burner will give you even a tinier blob. We want to make sure that when we create little blobs, which we're going to do with the heat here, we want to make them very small. So you're going to go at the bottom of the flame, and you're just going to put it close to your thread and just very lightly make a little tiny blob like this. And I'll show you closer what it looks like in a second here. Now I'm going to do it on the other side, making sure I have my long length of thread out of the way, and I'm just going to make the tiniest little blob like that. Now let me get you close so you can see what they look like. They're going to look bigger, oops, let's focus there. They're going to look bigger on my camera, but they're tiny little blobs. Now I'm just going to take the short thread and the long thread, and I'm going to pull them together until that little blob slides together and makes one blob, just like that. It's a very tight, very nice way to extend your thread. If your blobs are small enough, then your beads should slip right over it. If they are not, you're going to have difficulty with it. So make sure you make very small ones, and let me rethread my needle, and I will see if my beads will slip over this really nicely, and then I'll know that I was successful. I'm just trying to flatten my thread so I can rethread my needle here. Now I have a long thread to work with, and I'm just going to see if I can slide one of my beads over that. Yep, see, they slide right over. So I can continue making my strand, and no one will ever know the difference, and it's really strong, it's not going to break, and I have plenty of thread now. So go ahead and continue making your strands, and when I have finished as many as I want, and I think it's only going to be this last one, we will tie it off and try it on. Okay, so I've made my last strand, and I'm coming out of this one here. So I'm going to go into this one on this side, and I'm going to go ahead and go up all 3 beads this time. And pull that tight. And then right here on this thread bridge, right between my beads, I'm going to make sure my strand is pulled tight, no slack. I'm going to go right underneath this thread bridge here between the 6 O's and the 11 O's. And I'm going to make a loop and tie a knot. And pull it down tight. And then I'm going to go down all 3 of these on this side. Pull my thread through, then I'm going to part my crystal, and right in the middle here there's another thread bridge. Let's see if I can get closer without blurring this time. And I'm going to go right underneath this thread bridge between the 6/0 seed beads right here. And be careful with your thread because you've got a bunch of crystal now, you don't want to tangle it in. Make a loop and pull. Now, if you'd like to, which I'm going to, I'm just going to pick one of my strands, and preferably the one without the extension in it. And I am just going to sew all the way back down that strand and over on this side and tie another knot. You don't have to do this. You can tie your thread off right here and cut it off if you'd like. I'm going to see how hard this is to do. I'm only doing this to make it a little bit more secure. So now I've picked up some of my beads in my strand here, and I'm just going to travel through them. And I'm just going to continue traveling through them until I get to the other side. When I get to the other side, we'll come back and tie a few more knots. Okay, now I have sewn all the way through all of my beads on this strand, and just make sure you don't miss any as you go through or it'll bunch up your strand. And now I'm coming out right on this crystal here, so I'm going to go up through one of my seed, or actually all 3 of my seed beads, and I'm going to see if I can grab this thread bridge here between the 6 O's and the 11 O's. Right here. Let's get you a little closer. You can see I can just kind of go at an angle and go underneath that thread bridge. Tie a loop. And then I can travel down these. And then I can just cut off my thread. It's very unlikely now that my thread is going to unravel. So I'm going to just cut this close and show you my bracelet. Actually, let's get a little closer than that. that's what that looks like. I'll go ahead and put it on my wrist and I will show you what it looks like. And here it is. Here's the clasping and here's the crystal. It's quite pretty. I actually didn't need quite as much length as I gave myself, but that's okay. I'm going to twist this a little too and see what it looks like twisted. So I can twist this, just making sure that my pretty 11 O's are on top as I clasp it. And I'll put it on. And that takes up a little bit more room on my wrist and makes it a little tighter. So that actually works really well. And that's what that looks like. I think that looks really pretty twisted around. Nice. Looks great. And so if you use more strands, you want to make sure you give yourself a ½ inch extra length. I was actually planning on having more strands. I wanted this to be really full, but my crystal only went so far. So that's as big as I made it. Now the other one I made is a little bit, let me twist it a little bit. It is, I think, one more strand than the other, so I'll put this one on so you can see it too. And remember, if you'd like to visit the new website and get some of these cuboids for this particular bracelet or a few other things that we have online at this point while Shirley's store is closed, remember to go ahead and visit ggcstreasures.com. And I am going to stick this bracelet on with these 3 because I'll be right back. Here's this one. I twisted it less, but I like this one kind of loose when it's by itself because I like to see all the strands, so I just twisted it less. But that's what this one looks like, and I think they're really pretty. This one is a lobster claw, so it's hard for me to get off. So you just have to see our new ones with the old one here. But I think it turned out really pretty. Anyway, that's how you make these bracelets. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.